My husband's estate of $80 million, as well as this house, will be passed down to me. We don't have any children, so everything is mine. My sister-in-law speaks with such triumph. And my name is Emma, a 45-year-old part-time worker. My husband and I have two sons, a senior and a sophomore in high school. My eldest son is taking the college entrance exam this year. He aspires to be a lawyer and has been studying diligently. He has wanted to be a lawyer since he was a small child, possibly influenced by my older brother Oliver. My brother is a lawyer, and about a few years ago, he established a law firm and even had a few lawyers. My eldest son, who had grown up watching my brother do this, loved to study and always got good grades, even in elementary school. When my brother had heard that my eldest son wanted to be a lawyer, he was overjoyed and encouraged him. My eldest son told my brother whenever they meet, "I will be a lawyer like you, uncle." My brother chuckled as he responded, "Hurry up and become a lawyer and follow in my footsteps." When my brother, who was married but had no children, came to visit us, he gladly plays with my sons and spoils them. My brother's wife was 10 years younger than him. She was an eccentric, or rather a difficult woman who never visited our house, so we never really spoke to her. My brother and I lost our parents when we were young, so when I was about to get married, my brother took place as a parent, and after I married, he married as well. My husband and I were relieved when we knew that my brother was planning to marry a young woman. But when we actually met his fiancée, I was surprised at how grumpy she looked. We were expecting a happy faces because she was about to marry my brother, but she looked at us with a sulky look. I said, "You two are great together," in front of my brother and his fiancée, but I told my true feelings when I returned home and was alone with my husband. I was curious as to why she appeared so unhappy after the marriage was finalized. My husband seemed to agree with me and responded concernedly, "She wasn't a particularly pleasant bride." It can't be helped what we care. My brother married his 10-year younger fiancée. Shortly before they got married, my brother bought a house, so my husband and I took our children and visited them to celebrate. The house was magnificent and astonished me, as expected of my brother because he runs a law firm. But we did not see my sister-in-law, so my husband jokingly said to my brother, "Has your wife already left you?" My husband was obviously joking, but seeing my brother's stern expression, my husband and I became nervous. According to my brother, whenever there is something, sister-in-law returns to her parents' house. Today was their mother's birthday, so she is staying over to celebrate. My husband's shoulders slumped, thinking he had said a bad joke. Suddenly, my brother asks us with a straight face, "If I ever can't have children, can I adopt one of your children?" I thought my brother was joking, saying something like that, but he looked serious. I couldn't answer his unexpected suggestion, but my husband laughed and replied, "We don't know what the future holds, so let's discuss it when it happens, okay? If you are okay with our children, you are free to adopt whichever you want." My husband didn't seem to take it seriously and dismissed it, but I was concerned about the adoption, and more importantly, that my brother and his wife were not getting along. It wasn't my place to intervene because it was their problem, but I was concerned. After that, when we visit my brother's house, or he come over to our house, it was always just him. My sister-in-law never showed up. My brother also never mentioned her, so I avoided asking him about her. They had been married for more than 10 years, and I have almost been forgotten about her existence. This year, my eldest son was accepted into his dream law school. My brother brought up about adoption again, when he came to our house to celebrate my son. "Like I said before, would you allow me to adopt either of your kids?" he asked. My brother and his wife were unable to have children, and so he asked the question once more. They had just gotten married the last time we discussed it, so there was no sense of hurry, but this time my brother seemed serious. Nonetheless, my husband appeared to take it lightly and responded quickly, "Would you prefer to have our eldest son since he aspires to be a lawyer?" My husband said it so simply, but I was cautious, because it is a major life-changing decision for our sons. Though they were going to be adopted, they would be with my brother. It is their uncle, so my sons would be fine, but I was worried about my sister-in-law. I was concerned that she would mistreat my son, who were not her biological child, so I asked my brother, "Is your wife in favor of adopting?" My brother replied with a sour smile, "Don't worry about her. We've already discussed it." I was relieved to hear that they had already discussed it, but I couldn't make up my mind right away, so I decided to discuss it with my two sons and then make a decision. They are already in high school, so I wanted them to make their own decisions. We didn't go any further that day, but a few days later, I got a call from my brother's lawyer's office. They said he had collapsed. I rushed into the hospital. I found the staffs from the law firm waiting for him with worried expressions. My brother had a stroke at work and was rendered unconscious. After I arrived, the law firm staff left. They also said that they couldn't reach my sister-in-law. I called the landline, but she didn't answer, and I didn't have her cell phone number. My husband and my second son later arrived, but I really couldn't reach my sister-in-law. My second son eventually discovered a smartphone among my brother's belongings. We unlocked it and began looking up for her number. She answered angrily when I called using that phone. I told you not to call again. I will sue you. I began to speak while she was yelling in a terrible tone. It's Emma, Oliver's sister. My brother passed out and was taken to the hospital. Then she started talking gently when she realized it's me on the phone. I'm so sorry, I thought it was Oliver. You said he collapsed? I told her about my brother's condition and which hospital he was taken to, but she responded happily. I can't go to the hospital right now because I have things to do, but please notify me as soon as you hear anything. She then hung up the phone. I wondered if she had more important things to do now, even her husband is sick. Now that we know my sister-in-law cannot be any help, we decided to take care of my brother. Since my eldest son had finished his university entrance exams, and he was relaxing at home most of the time, he visited my brother every day on my behalf. My brother never regained consciousness and remained in critical condition, but my sister-in-law never called nor visited the hospital. About a week after my brother was hospitalized, I called my sister-in-law again. She answered the phone quickly and gleefully. What's the matter? Did he die? I wanted to yell at her for being so rude, but I responded quietly. He is still alive. Why don't you visit the hospital? She retorted as if she irritates me, while I hold back my rage. I'm not a doctor, nor am I a spiritual healer. There's nothing I can do for his recovery. I became even more enraged by her demeanor, so I hung up the phone. I began to suspect that my brother wanted to adopt one of my sons because he had given up on having children with his wife. I think they weren't getting along. When my brother's marriage was finalized, I asked him how they'd meet, and he said they met through a marriage counseling agency. Maybe my sister-in-law married him because he was a lawyer and she wanted to have a good life. This thought enraged me even more, but when I mentioned it to my husband, he said something even more crueler. If Oliver dies in this situation, his wife will inherit the entire estate, since they don't have any children. So my brother came to celebrate my eldest son the other day and spoke to us about adoption. Maybe it was because he was thinking about his inheritance. I wish I could have decided at that time, but there was nothing I could do. After my brother left that day, I casually mentioned it to my two sons, and my second son told me that he would be happy to be adopted. Unlike my eldest son, my second son has no goals at the moment. He appears to believe that if he is adopted by Oliver, he will have an easy life. I expected the first son, who looks up to his brother, to want to be adopted as well, but the answer surprised me. I don't want to be adopted, because as the eldest son, I will take care of you, Mom and Dad. I was overjoyed, but I also knew that my eldest son who aspired to be a lawyer was the right one to be adopted by. I was disappointed that I can't complete the adoption process on behalf of my unconscious brother. I do not want my brother's inheritance, but I also do not want to give even a penny of his property to my sister-in-law, who appears to be awaiting his death. I could only hope for my brother's recovery, but he never recovered. My brother passed away a few days later, and I had no choice but to contact my sister-in-law. My brother recently passed away. Can we do a funeral? My sister-in-law, who had been waiting the news of my brother's death, responded cheerfully. Everything is up to you. Please do not appoint me as a pallbearer. I don't want to deal with any formalities. When I was about to lose it, she quickly hung up the phone. After all, my husband and I planned the funeral. Staffs from the law firm helped us in a variety of ways. My husband was also concerned about the firm's future, but my brother had taken care of that. Though my brother was the firm's representative lawyer, he delegated management to someone he trusted, so the law firm as a corporation will continue to operate without a problem. Many people came to my brother's funeral, and so many wreaths were brought that they couldn't fit it in the hall. Then I realized how wonderful my brother was once again. My son also assisted at the funeral, but when my second son saw the presidents of major corporations, politicians, and others had also attended, he was really frustrated. I knew I should have been adopted. I had no idea how amazing he was. My husband and I both felt we could kind of understand his sorrow. I was the pallbearer, but no one asked why my sister-in-law wasn't there, and no one mentioned it. I wondered if we were the only ones who knew my brother had married. My brother and his wife did not have a wedding. Instead, they only went on their honeymoon, so even the relatives may have missed it. If this was going to happen, I almost wish they had never married. No need of a wife who does not attend of her husband's funeral, and I regret not allowing him to adopt my second son sooner, because I believe she would take all of my brother's estates. With the help of the law firm staffs, my brother's funeral was completed. I invited everyone to my brother's house for a meal and to thank them. My brother will be able to rest in peace because of all of you. We were all very sad. That's when my sister-in-law appeared, wearing a flashy pink coat. I addressed her as if she had planned to arrive just as the funeral wrapped up. After all this time, why did you come here? With a big smile on her face, she speaks loud so that everyone could hear. My husband's estate of $80 million, as well as this house, will be passed down to me, his wife. We don't have any children, so everything is mine. For some reason, when she said it triumphantly, my brother's subordinates burst out laughing. We looked at them confused, unsure why they were laughing. My sister-in-law glared and yelled at them. "What exactly are you laughing about? You're so impolite." While smirking, one of the lawyers responded, "We know that you're officially divorced. We all knew the result of your divorce settlement the day before he collapsed." When I first heard this fact, I exclaimed, "What? You were divorced?" I looked over my sister-in-law's face and saw her staring at them, who had just said the truth with the most terrifying expression ever. When she clenched her teeth, the other lawyer started talking. "I also heard that you were charged alimony in conjunction with your divorce. Because your affair caused a divorce, it is inevitable." My sister-in-law yelled, glaring at the lawyer who said it. "I'm not required to pay alimony, am I? I no longer have anyone to pay." She spoke mockingly, but there was no way she could compete with a legal expert, and she was quickly retorted, "The right to alimony will also be inherited, so you will have to pay it to Emma. She's the inheritor." Then I realized for the first time that I was my brother's sole inheritor. If their divorcement was finalized and our parents are gone, so I'm all that's left. She seemed to realize this too, and looked at me with a horrified expression, causing me to step back. But she seems unconvinced and began yelling once more. "Don't I get half of the estate now that divorcement is settled?" A dismayed-looking lawyer responds, "Didn't Oliver give you money when the divorce was finalized? I have a receipt certificate." He also purchased the house before the marriage, so it is not the subject to property division. I enjoyed watching her being lectured by the lawyers regardless of what she said. She seemed to recall something and shouted while laughing a little, "There's the life insurance, I should still be the beneficiary." She impressed me with her attitude in a situation where everyone around appeared to be her enemy. She said she changed the beneficiary of Oliver's life insurance to herself. However, the lawyer was also quick to deny about the life insurance. Oliver is a firm man, so I think he changed it when the divorce was finalized. I searched my brother's valuables and discovered the life insurance policy. When my sister-in-law saw this, she took the life insurance policy from me and looked impatiently at the beneficiary, but dropped her shoulders in disappointment. When she returned the certificate to me, I noticed that the beneficiary was me. My sister-in-law, realizing she was getting nowhere, yelled out her true feelings without thinking. "I married a lawyer because I thought he is wealthy, but I've only got a little money. In addition, I have to pay alimony. This is a huge mistake." With a grimace, the lawyer replied to her. Oliver said same thing. He said he shouldn't have come for the advice of a marriage counselor. He bemoaned the fact that he had made a huge mistake. My brother had never said anything like that to me, but he had always been truthful with his coworkers and subordinates. Unable to refute anything, my sister-in-law rolled her back and left my brother's house. Later on, she will have to pay the alimony in installments, but she didn't have a job. She began looking for a job quickly, but she has never worked seriously before and quit immediately. She re-registered to the marriage counseling agency and looked for a wealthy man in order to make quick money. And she found the wealthy man, told him she needed money for marriage, and cheated him out of his money. But the man caught on right away and reported her to the police. She was arrested for marriage fraud, according to the lawyer who works in my brother's law firm. To be honest, no alimony was ever paid to me, and when I went to see the lawyer about it, the story came up. In dismay, the lawyer told me, now that she has been apprehended, alimony payments may be impossible to obtain for the foreseeable future. Alimony is not something I am interested in. I was more interested in seeing her suffer a terrible fate. I believe my brother would agree, so I would like the police to investigate thoroughly her other crimes, etc., and charge her as a felon in court. My family moved into a house that my brother had left behind after unexpectedly inheriting his property. My husband and sons were ecstatic to be able to live in a big house after previously living in an apartment. My eldest son is studying law harder than ever before. He observed his brother's colleagues and subordinates lawyers, arguing with his sister-in-law, which made him yearn to be a lawyer. Though he was never adopted by, I hope he will carry on my brother's legacy and become a great lawyer like him. Only my second son is upset and disappointed that I inherited my brother's entire estate. He claims, "To be honest, I wish I was adopted by uncle so I could have inherited everything." The second son smiled half-jokingly.